to side with every single thing about Black men because I feel like Black women, we have a part to play in this as well. You guys ain't reevaluating yourselves, which is why you end up being in the same position. And I'm not going to go through with the delusion. I just refuse to. So I was saying little things and I started to be called a pick me.
Purr.
Lego. Hey ladies, welcome to Edified Minds podcast. I'm Kennedy Edwards, your host, and I talk about overcoming issues that women in our 20s are facing, ignoring toxic social media culture, and debunking Black culture debacles. So today's episode is definitely going to be a Black culture debacle topic, and it's something that I feel extremely passionate about, but I'm not giving you any advice. I'm just talking. We're just going to have girl talk, and I don't really have any advice to give because I just feel strongly about this that I'm just gonna shoot my shit. You know what I'm saying? But before I shoot anything, I just want to start off. This is the type of conversation where I need me some wine. Okay, so I got this Black Girl Magic Sparkling Brut. I hope I'm saying it right, but I'm gonna pour this up, and hopefully, ladies, you can hear this. I hope you can hear that. That would have been some good ASMR. Okay, so you guys could hear it. That was good. So, anyways, your girl's got a good glass of wine. Let me go ahead and ship something. And I'm not drinking it to get tipsy or anything like that. I'm just sipping it so I can feel a little good. Okay. Now, first things first, this week has been pretty good. I'm feeling a little better. You guys definitely have made me feel good when it comes to my depression episode. I had a lot of girls DM me and tell me how they were feeling. So I'm so happy that I could have a vulnerable conversation where I feel like a lot of you guys understand exactly what I mean when I say, hey, we're dealing with depression. And these are healthy ways to manage them. And so I'm happy you guys were connecting with that. And that was really good. I was kind of a little scared to put that out, but not so much anymore. This week has been good. But there have been some things on TikTok that have been low key upsetting me. And it's been surrounded a lot about like Black culture. And you know that I cover that in this podcast, Black culture debacles. So I've had somebody ask me, like, what does debacle mean? Okay, so I want to go ahead and look this up. Debacle is a fiasco, a sudden and big word failure. Okay, so that's what I'm calling a lot of Black culture nowadays. It's a debacle. Gender wars, inner racism, that type of stuff. I'm sick and tired of it. And you guys, I cannot relate. I'm trying to get this guy on my podcast, and I really feel like we'd have a really good conversation. And he's got his own platform and his own podcast. So I found him on TikTok, and he's very suave. That's how I describe him. Gives me red pill, to be honest, but it seems like he does talk a lot about Black men holding themselves accountable, making money, being breadwinners. Like it seems like he's kind of, some people would probably say anti-Black man, but maybe he just wants to hold them accountable, right? And so he's got a lot of female audiences and they have conversations about, relationships and stuff. And when I jumped in, the conversation was mainly about how Black women should date outside of their race, how Black women should not allow men to do this and that to them. And, if you don't got a job, I don't want to talk to you. And just really, like, in my opinion, dumbing down Black men. So I made certain comments on there like, okay, well, that not all Black men are like this, right? Because you guys are saying things in a generalizing terminology. You guys are saying all, don't date Black men, right? You're not saying don't date that man who's lying to you. Don't date that man who don't got a job. You're saying don't date Black men as if they're all the same. And I've got an episode already saying Black women aren't the same. Got a lot of good feedback about that. But it seems like we're not giving the same credit, in my opinion, to Black men, especially the women on that live. So I was saying little things and I started to be called a pick me. Girls were commenting when I was like, okay, well, what about the part that Black women play? If we feel so passionately all of a sudden about not being with Black men, and not being with broke boys? And how come a lot of you guys are getting knocked up every dang on day by a broke man or by a black man? Like, when are we going to hold ourselves accountable? And I kept getting called a pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. Now, I want to start off by saying that phrase just in general just pisses me off, even though it doesn't hurt my feelings because I don't care. The phrase itself is demeaning, and it's really meant to put you down when you don't agree with somebody. So I saw that live. It annoyed me. I got off of it. Well, actually, by the time I got off of it, it was done. But I was telling Black women to vet individual men, discern individual men. If we feel some type of way when certain Black men say they don't date us because they're prejudging us as a whole, let's not do the same to them. At that point, we're fighting fire with fire. Nobody wins. People were not understanding where I was coming from. And I haven't heard from this guy yet. So I hope that he doesn't take offense to the things I was saying, but I want for us as a culture to work on things together. We don't have to hate one another in order to live happy lives. I've dated majority of Black men. And I know a lot of my sisters out there listening, you guys prefer Black men. I don't fault you, but we do have to be real with ourselves and say, okay, majority of Black men are either dead or in prison. That's the first part. The next part is that majority of them do not go to school. So as far as education, trades, we're going to end up probably feeling like we're better than them, even though statistically, I looked up recently that we do not make more than Black men statistically, but we probably start feeling like we're better than them because we may be in an office job and they may be doing something out in the field. So it's a lot of barriers, and we end up kind of fighting over the same man because we're just so caught up in I want a Black man, I want a Black man, and we're not open to other races. Unlike Black men are dating every race that they can get their hands on. So I don't want to get on a tangent, but I just want you guys to see from my point of view in that live, I didn't like how they were speaking about Black men as a whole. There's this show called Escaping Twin Flames. And it's a really good show on Netflix. I say everybody should watch it. I actually made a TikTok video about it recently. And I'm getting some backlash from some people because they feel like I don't sound empathetic. But stupidity is stupidity. And I'm going to speak on it. I cannot be coerced into letting somebody online try to act like they're my God and they can tell me what to do. Like, that's just not happening. So, anyways, this show is about pretty much this cult. You got a couple, they're telling you, hey, we can find your twin flame, aka the love of your life, and you got to pay like you got to pay $2,000 a month, but they allow you to make payments. So $2,000 a month. They started actually hiring people to work for their company. They started saying things like, you have to go in on like hour-long webinars and Zoom calls with them and like discuss things. And they were talking about like God being part of it, and you have to listen to God. But they were talking a lot about sex and just nasty things, like just sexual things. And then if you made the man mad, I forgot his name. How could I forget his name? But if you made him mad, he would straight up call you like a F face, like, oh, you F face, and you're bitching and things like that. So in my opinion, if you talk to me like that on the phone or on a Zoom, obviously I'm done with you. But these people were so desperate for love and for validation and acceptance that they went for it. I just can't feel sorry for these people. And if you guys watch it, you let me know what you think, because I promise you it's such a good show. I always get interested in cult shows and cult series and things of that nature because it's interesting to see people's mindsets and how we genuinely don't think the same. No one person thinks the same. To them, it made sense. To me, it's absolute clownery that I could never see myself going for. But there was one Black woman in there. And one thing she said that stood out to me for some reason was that she knew no Black man was going to go in that group. And it was true. No Black man went in that group. And eventually the leaders, it was a couple of the twin flame group, realized, oh my gosh, men are not really joining this. It's mostly women. And so they started to make it seem like their twin flame was women. And they started saying, okay, most of you guys are bisexual. You guys should start to, expand your horizon because your twin flames are all in this group. And it just so happened to be like they started pairing women with women and then trying to tell some women that, okay, you're masculine. So you should get like a sex change and become a man because you're masculine. And It was a whole bunch of like craziness, you guys. But I just want to point out the Black woman said something very interesting to me. And that was that Black men were not going to go for that stuff. And I thought about it. I thought about the race war, the gender war, the Black culture debacle, the failure that I think a lot of us on social media are getting sucked into. I don't agree with the term pick me. Why? Because I am not going to change my mind about how I feel about all Black men because of my experience with one Black man. When I was watching the documentary, when I was on the live, one thing was very clear, and that is that right now we seem to be in a generation where people just really desperately want love. And if you don't agree with them, and if you don't love them the way that they feel like they should be loved, then you're a op, and now all of a sudden you're a pick me. The pick me term and the pick me culture really just stems from women who are upset that you agree with men on certain stances. And I actually went viral on Spiritual World for telling people about a book called The Unicorn Delusion. It's written by G.L. Lambert. I'm actually looking at my bookshelf right now. G.L. Lambert. I've got another book of his called Men Don't Love Women Like You. So he's very, very kind of critical, and he's harsh, but his delivery makes sense. And so I understand his point of view. When I said in his viral clip that women should read the book, because he talks about how a lot of us are delusional and think that only our looks, vagina, and personality are going to get us somewhere with majority of these guys, I got backlash on another major platform, and I won't name them because I don't really care. I don't listen to them anyway. They actually say on their podcast that they promote toxicity. And as you know, in Edified Minds, I promote the complete opposite. So I don't expect them to understand what I was saying anyway. And how can you be mad at me for telling you to read a book that I didn't write? You know what I mean? So anywho, they try to pretty much call me a pick me and say that because I was agreeing with this man that some women are delusional, which they are, and believing that their vagina is so special that I'm a pick me. Now, I'm sorry, you guys. Majority of us think our vagina is hot. I mean, let's be real, ladies. I'm sure you think your vagina is good. I'm sure you've heard it's good. But can you at least be real with yourself and admit that your vagina is not the best? There's no way that a man could even be able to determine that unless he slept with every single woman in this world. So I agree that we can be delusional, and I call out the things that I have been a part of. I've been delusional. I've lied to myself. I've thought that because, I was sleeping with a guy for some years and he wouldn't leave, that meant, oh, he can't leave me alone. He don't leave me alone. That meant nothing though. When I really thought about it later on in life, when I got healed, I realized, oh, this guy just kept me around for some years because I was very convenient for him. It was just convenience. And then when I stopped sleeping with him, never heard from him again. So obviously he never cared about me. Obviously the thing ain't that good. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean nothing to him. And so I have stopped the delusion. And ladies, I'll talk about this in a whole nother episode as far as my whole phase and things of that nature. I'll be very candid about it, but I've stopped with the delusion. And so as a result, I'm getting called pick me. And the culture pretty much just stems from women being upset that I am calling out women for the things that we should fix. If we want for men to fix things, I would expect for us to want to fix things as well. And that's something that I understand when men say, like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to get through women. They don't want to listen. I can genuinely say, I feel that. It's being used so much. And it just shows that I think a lot of women don't want to change for the better. They don't want to work on themselves. And if that's you, I say look in the mirror because, like I said, this is not an advice podcast. I'm really just telling you how I feel about it. And if you use it, you should check yourself. Just because I don't agree with you about something does not mean that I'm a pick me. Who do I want to pick me? If this is my opinion, for all I know, a guy might be like, no, I don't feel that way. Actually, I don't agree with that. Who's going to pick me? What you're mad at is that you feel like men haven't chosen you for the stuff you're saying and for the stuff you're doing. So you feel like because I'm doing the opposite of what you're doing, I want to be chosen somehow by somebody. Absolutely false. Absolutely. I'm not going along with this gender war. Okay. And it is very clear to me that we're going through a gender war that I think is being coerced and manipulated by white supremacists. Now, I hope I'm not going off on like a Kanye type of tangent, but I'm just being real here, you guys. It seems like in every single phase of Black culture, we have been pushed against each other. Take it all the way back to Africa. You had Africans sell Africans to the white people. In slavery, you had dark skin versus light skin. They did that to us. They made us hate each other, even through Jim Crow and things of that nature. Then it started becoming like classism. People in the North. I want to say, was it like the industrial movement or something like that? When Black people started to kind of migrate up north, they kind of felt like they were better than the Negroes in the South. And it continues and continues and continues. And now we're dealing with, in my opinion, modern day slavery, I guess you could say, modern day hate in our community. And now they have allowed us to hate each other when it comes to gender. If we don't populate, if we hate each other, I think you know what happens next, do you not? And so, Black women, I know you love Black men, but if you love Black men so much, it is time for us to admit that not every Black man is the same. It's just time to admit that. And it's time to let them know we're not the same. There are certain cultural similarities. There are certain things that, yes, we have in common, right? But to be prejudged as a whole is what the issue really is. And I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to say all Black men ain't shit. I'm not going to say all Black men cheat and lie and things like that, because I've met some that do and I met some that don't. I'm not going to say all Black women are angry and want attention, because I know some Black women who are quiet as a mouse. So I'm not going to feed into this conversation. I'm not. And you can say that, oh, it's just on social media, but it is indeed happening in real life, where there's a lot of animosity and there's a lot of hate towards one another in the dating realm. It is happening. And so I'm no longer going to side with every single thing about Black men, because I feel like Black women, we have a part to play in this as well. And I view the same thing with my life. If I have a breakup with somebody, I always think about the part that I played. And then I reevaluate myself and move forward. A lot of you guys ain't reevaluating yourselves, which is why you end up being in the same position. And I'm not going to go through with the delusion. I just refuse to. I do. I have men in my life who I love, and I have experienced F-boys. I think we all have. Like, at this point in your 20s, if you have not experienced the F-boy, you are very lucky, and you are a unicorn. You are. Even my mom told me, speaking of unicorn, she told me a few nights ago that if I meet a Black man that doesn't lie and doesn't cheat, that I've met a unicorn. And that's my mom. You know what I mean? Love my mom to death. But this is all based off of experiences that she has seen. And all of our lives are really impacted by what we've experienced. Your point of view is going to be different than mine. But I realize there are some good guys, there are some bad guys. And I put two and two together at the end of the day. Who's the common denominator in that situation? If I'm dating a good man, if I'm dating a bad man, who's always in it? Me. I am. It's me. It could be me. It could be maybe that I'm not catching on to red flags with that F-boy fast enough. It could be that with the good guy, there's something in him where just naturally we're just not compatible. And that's okay too. But you are in the center of the people that you're dating and entertaining. So I'm not going to allow F-boys to win by making my heart cold and making me say, oh, everybody's effed up and dot, dot, dot. I'm not going for it. So many women are scorned, and it shows every single day. And I'm not one of them. I was on a podcast and I felt like the guys were trying to kind of tempt me into talking bad about men, and I wouldn't do it because I genuinely don't feel that way. I don't feel that every single guy is bad. I've got brothers. I love them. I have a father that was in my life. Is in my life. I don't know why I say was, but is in my life. I have male figures in my life as well that are truly platonic brothers, not the brothers that I smash, like some of y'all be saying, oh, that's my brother, and you really want to smash. That's your problem. That ain't your brother. It's not your brother. But no, I don't have those. I have platonic male figures who give me real deal advice and tell me how they feel, and I listen to their point of view, which helps me open up my opinions and perspective. We instead of trying to understand one another, we are fighting each other, and we're trying to not see eye to eye. And I don't know how that's going to help us. Ladies, if you want to be in a relationship with a man, right? I would think that you'd kind of want to understand his point of view, his perspective, his thought process. And like I said, I'm not talking about F boys. Does not apply to F boys. This applies to a good man that you could be dating. And you got to discern a man before you date him. You know what I mean? I was recently tricked. I thought the guy I was dating was a really good guy, but there were things that I did ignore. I did ignore red flags. I did know he had a history of cheating. I did know he dealt with mental health issues. I was very aware. And so that's a me thing. Am I now going to date somebody else and go, oh, that black man, he probably going to cheat. He probably got a mental illness. He probably got, no, no. It's really ridiculous to me why we don't think that we have any flaws. We don't think that we do anything wrong. And that's delusional to me. I really am frustrated. And I would say that this episode is really me ranting low key, but you're gonna take my rant because I'm saying some real things in here. You got to understand that every single situation you go through is different and you played a part in it, and we got to be responsible, and we got to really, really, really be accountable, because that makes us better women at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it may not be you, the viewer who's watching, or the person who's listening. It may not be you who thinks this way, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You see it online. It all really started with Kevin Samuels, I believe, if I'm being quite honest, in that sprinkle woman. But I'm tired of it. I really encourage you to not give into those conversations. Think about it. If you're only dating black men, all you know are black men. So really that's all you can base your experience off of. But it doesn't mean that every single guy is like that. And I really just don't want you guys to block your blessings, because that's really going to happen. In all seriousness, this episode really was me just simply saying, you guys, I hate the term pick me. I hate it, but I don't care about it. And I realize that if you don't agree with what majority of women say, they're going to say that you're a pick me. If you want to point out that there are really good black men out here, and that what we have to do is stop having babies with everybody, and what we have to start doing is paying attention to red flags, and what we have to start doing is start looking outside of our horizon. Maybe God doesn't want you to end up with a black man, but you keep blocking your own blessing because you're so stuck in your ways. Maybe if black women, in my opinion, would, and if we would be quiet sometimes and just let a man speak and really get to know him and allow him to talk himself out of everything and into everything, then we would have better discernment with men. Maybe if we prayed more on men and said, you know what, I'm not going to rush into sex with you. I'm not going to try to say this is pro-liberating and all this stuff and all these lies that we're telling ourselves. Sleeping with a man fast, in my opinion, isn't going to get you the results you want anyway. It majority of the time doesn't. Then I don't feel like we'd be dealing with a lot of this stuff. I feel like if we set the standard and we said, nah, it has nothing to do with if you have money or not. I'm not going to sleep with you until I know that I can trust you. I'm not going to sleep with you until I know that you want to be with me. I'm not going to have your baby until I know that like you're really actually mine. We're going to have a good family. If we don't make those decisions, I feel like black men are going to do whatever they want to do anyway, because no standard is being set. And best believe I am going to do another topic about black men in particular as well. And I think it's best that I have a black male guest, an interview. I can't speak about men because I'm not a man. All I can do is talk to my ladies about it, because that's what I am. But just know, if you've been called a pick me, please ignore those people. And if you're calling people pick me's, please stop being mad because another woman doesn't want to hate men the way that you are expressing hate towards men. Do not get me wrong. There are good people. There are bad people. There are good men. There are bad men. There are good women. There are bad women. But I'm not going to hop on this gender war. I'm not going on social media and bashing Black men as a whole. I'm not going on social media and telling you guys not to trust Negroes and all this stuff. I'm not doing it. I'm above that and I refuse. But I'm not a pick me. And if there are times where I say, hey, nah, that woman was wrong, I agree with that man, then it kind of just is what it is. So, ladies, I just have to get that off my chest. I mean, that was literally it. There was no advice in this aside from if you've been called a pick me, ignore it. If you call people pick me's, you really need to shut up because I don't have to agree with everything you say. And right now, I have got to get going. I have a seasonal job for some extra money to cut down debt. Like I said, the woman I want to be now. I talked about this in my last episode. The woman I want to be now is financially mature. She's financially saving multiple streams. So I'm going to go ahead and head out and go to my seasonal job. But I will see you guys next week. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram at edifiedminds.podcast, TikTok at Edified Minds Podcast, and listen and subscribe on YouTube as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.